zoom here a little bit with Damien Harris could be an RB1 this year, absolutely, if he gets a bunch of those fallen touchdowns, which isn't going to happen. I'm going to come out and say he's not going to get those again. So I think he's kind of capped on where he can go, especially with Ramondre Stevenson there, just eating up carries and taking away some of the passing work. I'm just a little scared of the New England backfield is all.
Okay. Yeah, I think they've got the new defensive lineman, Jeremiah Farms Jr., and I think that is good. I think that would be good for them.
They did address the defensive side of the ball in the draft a little bit more because they just went out and spent all that money. The one player they did draft offensively was Tyquan Thornton from the University of Baylor, a wide receiver. And it's always interesting to see like what the rookie projections will look like because you don't know what these guys are going to do in the NFL. And looking at him, this year is not much. They just have so many weapons that I don't think Tyquan can really compete for a job. Currently going undrafted, and that should not change. The player that I actually think is being extremely underrated right now is Jacoby Meyer. If you remember, just about a week ago, the Patriots traded N'Keal Harry to the Bears for a 7th-round pick. And while that doesn't actually affect any of these rankings at all because N'Keal Harry was doing absolutely nothing in New England, Jacoby Myers, it shows they have some faith in him. He's currently being drafted behind Devontae Parker, which I think is just straight up disrespectful. Jacoby Myers is the wide receiver 1 in New England. And I mean, while that doesn't say a whole lot just because of the fact that they're not going to be throwing the ball that often, it's just, he's a better pickup to me. If you're sitting, he's going to be drafted in the 14th round, ladies and gentlemen. In the 14th round, you're sitting there and looking at the potential to take Jacoby Meyer. There's no reason not to. I mean, he is right there, and he's a no-risk, high-reward player, that you can grab in your drafts and be like, look, if he breaks out, I have him. I can just shove him right in my lineup. But if not, who cares? I spent a 14th-round pick on him. You have any comments on the wide receiver room there?
Nope.
All right. Tight end. If you remember this last offseason, Hunter Henry and Juano Smith signs. Hunter Henry's the guy there over Smith, but I'm not big on either of them really. Tight end 17 for Hunter Henry, and I'm really not. I can't really buy him any hype from these guys. Just because, once again, there's so many mouths to feed. It was the same thing on, obviously he wasn't here, but if you remember from the Jacksonville Jaguars, they just have a lot of mouths to feed, and there's only one football. The Dolphins had one of the more exciting off seasons this year, bringing in Tyreek Hill, and they went all in around Tua Tagovailoa, trading away some future picks to get Tyreek Hill, and that means they have faith in him, which kind of boosts my faith. I don't have him running as much as one might expect, just because of the little bit of injury history from Tua, so I think they might try and keep him in the pocket a little bit more. But having an option to dump off, I think he'll have a better season, but still, just a QB 20 for me. If you're sitting there and you like him, he is a high upside quarterback too.
I think that I have him higher because Tua with
Tyreek Hill?
Thank you.
Yep.
Tyreek Hill and Tua, I think are going to be a great duo. I think that duo will work together and kind of carry the Dolphins through the playoffs.
Okay,
Keyword through.
Yeah, I did hear that. That seems like a late push for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
But if he's a high upside quarterback too. So if you wait on quarterbacks, if you take my strategy, one of the quarterbacks and Webb's here, and you're waiting on quarterback, he's a high upside guy you could grab and say, look, if he breaks out, great, and if not, then I have Derek Carr or somebody like that to sit there and take him to work.
I definitely understand your view at the Dolphins, not maybe seeing them go as far as I do, because I think this will definitely be a learning season with a lot of new talent. Not the same
coach as well,
right? Not the same type of readjustment as let's say the Patriots are doing with losses.
Yep.
I think it's more readjustment to the additions, the new additions.
So you're projecting a slower start to the season,
right?
That's always something to look at in your draft as well. Is as you're sitting there in the later rounds of your draft, do you want to grab a player that has a learning curve, which isn't really as this team in fact doesn't really have that as much unless you want to grab a late running back. But for certain teams, if there's a new head coach or a bit of a learning curve from the player changing teams, you might not want to grab him in that later on. You might want to draft a guy that's already been settled in with his team that might have a faster start to the season, because that's what you're really trying to grab onto in the late rounds of your draft. It's a quick start, who then you can trade off for maybe a player from the Dolphins or somebody that has had a slower start in a new system. Leaving the running back room, they have brought in an entire new core here. Last season it was, I believe Myles Gaskin was the number one guy. He's not even on the roster anymore. Chase Edmonds is the guy, and it's really surprising to see where he's being drafted. I have him actually right around his current ADP. I have him as RB35, but I'm a believer in Chase Edmonds. I think if I'm sitting there in my draft, and we'll have see a lot of these principles put in actual practice. But when I'm sitting there, I think Chase Edmonds has upside way above RB35 because with the new head coach coming from San Francisco, where they ran the ball a ton, even with Deebo Samuel, which we'll get to with Tyreek Hill comparisons. But I think Chase Edmonds has the potential to have a big season, as well as getting dump offs from Tua. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on the running back room there.
Yeah, I think Chase Edmonds, I think, was a good pick for the Dolphins. A little, kind of a decent contract.
So yep.
I think 12.1, which
it's a proven deal. It's a proven deal. Like, here, we're going to give you this money.
Yeah.
And show us what you can do.
Yeah, pretty decent for that. So.
They signed a bunch of running backs. They signed Raheem Mostert and Sonny Michel as well. They gave Chase Edmonds the biggest contract, which typically shows who they're going to give the reins to.
Yeah.
Raheem Mostert's currently being drafted, and I don't think he should be. I don't think this is going to be a split backfield. I know Raheem Mostert's a carryover. He's come from San Francisco as well, so he has a little chemistry with the coach. But in the end, I don't think it matters. I think Chase Edmonds is going to be the workhorse here, and I think he's going to end up with well over. He might actually end up being my bold prediction up here of the AFC East. But wide receiver-wise, Tyreek Hill is kind of the story. Everyone, I mean, you know what Tyreek Hill can do. He's an absolute speed demon. And I think it's really going to be interesting because no one really knows what this new system, how he's going to be used. Because if you remember back in San Francisco, he was the offensive, the new head coach was the offensive coordinator there. And he gave the end arounds to Deebo Samuel. Imagine what he can do with Tyreek Hill. It was just an all-around weapon. So that running upside, I have Tyreek Hill as the wide receiver 6. And I think if I'm sitting there in the second round, and I mean, if I look at my wide receiver rankings, I have him ranked right behind Jamar Chase. Okay. Which is actually a little bit lower than consensus on Jamar Chase. But if I'm looking at Tyreek Hill or Devontae Adams, or even Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill I think has more upside than either of those guys. Especially in this new system, he could easily be the fantasy wide receiver 1. Him and Stephon Diggs, really interesting. There's some great receivers in this division here, but both of them have the potential to be that wide receiver number 1. Right. And then Jalen Waddle, the Penguin, because he waddles. But I have him a little bit lower than consensus. A lot of people are expecting a breakout, and the only reason I'm a little bit hesitant on that is because they brought in Tyreek Hill. People are saying, oh, you know, the new coach, he's going to utilize him better, which he could. But then they just got Jalen Waddle on steroids and Tyreek Hill. So it seems like the kind of draft that they brought in a guy that does the same thing as Waddle, and does it much better. So I'm a little bit more hesitant. I'm not saying he's going to have a bad season by any means, but I have him as about 10 slots below where he's being drafted. I have him as the wide receiver 26. And I'm just not in on him this year.
I think you hit it on the head, but I think that trio that we talked about, each with their own kind of specifications in their playing field, I think that'll definitely be a dangerous trio right there.
In real football, they are going to do very well with those two guys. But I just think Waddle won't be able to have the fantasy performance that
I can see that
he might be able to have if Hill wasn't there.
And that's what makes one or two of the trio a little bit better in that
Absolutely. And then tight end Mike Gesicki, he became a favorite target of Tua last year, and I think he's going to do very well, even with Tyreek coming in, just because they don't really cross paths very much. Gesicki's that big target that Tua has chemistry with already, throwing it up high to him and letting him go get it. So I have him as a tight end 9, and I would have no problem with him as my tight end, as my first tight end on my roster in the draft this year in the 9th round. I have absolutely no problem with that. If you look at players getting drafted around, I mean, we talked about the 9th round running back hole, but if you look at the 9th round right now, players getting drafted in the 9th are like, I don't know, if you're sitting there and you don't have a tight end yet, you could have, you're looking at Ramondre Stevenson, Ronald Jones, these are all, James Cook, we talked about him a little bit earlier, but Mike Gesicki is a tight end right there, and I think an absolute steal, especially when he's right around Pat Vermathu, who I once about below him, tight end Pittsburgh, but I think he's an absolute steal this year. That's all the teams. Do you have any, who do you think's going to win the division this year?
So, as a former Dolphin fan, I want the Dolphins to win really bad, but I think you definitely have a point, or we both have a point where this is going to be a learning season with the new adjustments, positive adjustments, but still adjustments. But I don't think anybody can really deny it, even as a former Dolphins fans. I think the Bills are going to take it.
It's Buffalo's division until they prove us otherwise, and I don't think anyone takes the reins from them this year. Do you have any bold predictions? I know you have some normal predictions. I don't know if you have any bold predictions over there in that concoction of yours.
Yeah, I'm just really excited to see how Tua and Tyreek Hill really complement each other.
So yeah, I feel like you're kind of looking at a Tua breakout here this year a little bit. Is kind of your bold prediction.
Yeah. I think his last few years have been really good, and I think this year will probably be the best of them so far.
Oh, yeah.
I think this will definitely be the one for him.
So I'm gonna throw in 2 bold predictions here,
Okay.
since your prediction isn't very bold.
Not very.
But we're gonna go Chase Edmonds, running back out of Miami. We just talked about. I think he could be a top 20 running back this year. I think the upside is there, and if they give him the ball, he's gonna do big things with it. And then over in New England, Jacoby Myers is a top 24 wide receiver. Now, the reason why this is bold is I even have him ranked at 49. So I'm having him go way above. But if he and Mac Jones get a little chemistry and he becomes Mac Jones' #1 option, there is no reason he can't be a top 24 wide receiver. I think that's pretty much all we got today. Thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Thank you,
It's been
Sarah.
an honor. And come back next time. Thank you.